Good morning. I hope you're doing great today. We are going to be working a psalm spell for perseverance. And this is Psalm number 10. And the way we do this, for those of you who are new to this work, is we read the psalm through all the way one time as an incantation. And then we go back through and we mine each verse for little seeds of magic. And the contemplation of those seeds of magic is the way that we plant those seeds deep within our mind, and then they grow, take root, and bear fruit after their kind. And I'll show you how to do it. And here we go for perseverance, Psalm 10. Why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hideth his face, he will never see it. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thy hand, forget not the humble. Wherefore doth the wicked condemn God? He hath said in his heart, Thou wilt not require it. Thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spite, to requite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fearless. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. All right. So that's a lot to think about, isn't it? And this is one of the. It's a type of cursing psalm. It's not one of the main imprecatory psalms, but it is a cursing psalm. So it's okay to get into some curses when we are working positive magic on our own deep mind. Okay, so we are not cursing people. All right, so let's do this thing. Why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? All right, so let's just get right into this. Who is the Lord? We know who the Lord is. The Lord is infinite intelligence. The Lord is infinite spirit. The Lord is the life principle. It's infinite and perfect love. It's all good. The Lord is the idea of all good. All right, it's our creator. It's the creative principle itself. It's that which creates us in the moment, not something that happened in time. So then we're asking, why, O Lord, why standest thou afar off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? Well, we know that the Lord can't stand afar, because the Lord is, that principle is our life itself. It's nearer to us than anything. So if we are experiencing that our good is standing afar off, it is because we are focusing ourselves elsewhere. We are doing the far off thing, not the Lord. Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The Lord does not hide him, her, itself in times of trouble. Times of trouble are an indication that we have turned away, that we are thinking thoughts that are not with God. The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. So the wicked for us is discussing wicked thought forms, negative thought forms, the thought forms within ourselves that are at odds with our good, the thought forms that do not have our own best interests at heart. We do not know our own best interests with these thought forms. They don't care for our success or our happiness. They are destructive thought forms, and so that is called the wicked. Okay, and pride of the wicked, that is the ego mind. The ego mind is prideful, and it is a lot of times the ego has pride and arrogance and humility backwards. So the idea that we are gods and that we are of the same fabric and family of God, that we have all the rights and privileges of gods, that to the ego is the height of arrogance, whereas to the spirit, that is the height of humility. It's just declaring who we are. It's just declaring the idea of who we are. Now, from arrogance and pride, from Spirit's point of view, is thinking that you're less than. It's the idea that you could make, so if the creative principle, or the Lord, if you will, if from these Psalms, created you perfect, and you then start thinking of yourself as less than, that is actually arrogance. Even though the ego presents it to you as being humble. Oh, I'm just a nobody, I'm just a nothing. That's arrogant. Okay. So the wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. Now, how do you persecute the poor? Well, the poor in spirit, the poor inside of you is that Jacob spirit, that part of you that wants to rise up and wants to take back your own throne, your own divinity. And so the wicked is persecuting that divine child, that small child within you. And it's poor because it is still remembering who it is within you. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. Is just proving to you. Is just giving word to the truth that all evil destroys itself. That evil falls away of its own weight. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. Okay, so the Lord abhorring the covetous. Now, the Lord doesn't abhor, but it seems like it, in the same way that it seems like the Lord abhors the darkness when you turn on the light, right? The light abhors the darkness. It doesn't abhor it. It's just real, and the other one isn't. So so the covetous parts of ourselves, the wickedest parts of ourselves, are boasting of our heart's desire. And a lot of times boasting of the heart's desire of the wicked is giving ear to and giving form to and giving word to all of those problems that we are besieged with. The reason why we can't make it, the reason why it's never going to work. That's the wicked boasting of its heart's desire. Because remember, the wicked wants you to fail. Those thought forms want you to fail. So they don't want you to persevere. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not at all in his thoughts. That's because that is darkness. Those are dark thoughts, and dark thoughts do not want to be anywhere around light, because then they will be gone, because they're not real in the grand scheme of things. The darkness is nothing but the shadowing of light. So the pride of the countenance of the wicked means the dark face. The dark face will not seek after God, because that's destruction for it. So those thought forms in you, not only are they trying to protect themselves, but they're trying to get you away from your good, because your good is a threat to them, to those thought forms, and so that's why we want those thought forms to be destroyed. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. Okay, so that's very self-explanatory. The ways of the ego are always grievous. They're always out to thwart you. And God's judgments are far above out of his sight. In other words, the ego doesn't even understand what God is. All it knows is that God, the Lord, your perfection, is a threat to it. So all it does is try to keep you distracted and focused on anything other than your own good. And that's why we want sometimes not to persevere, is because the ego says, yeah, don't bother with that. Don't do that. Because it knows that it's the death of these thought forms. And he puffeth at all of things good. That, have you noticed that how that works? When you're ready to just give up, it's just like, ugh, none of this works. And just anything good is awful to you. And all of that sort of cynical attitude. That's what that's describing there. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. So that's the ego's trying to say, no, don't follow the Spirit, follow me, because with me, everything's going to be good. If you can work this out yourself, you're going to be a lot safer than going in with all the spiritual stuff. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. Now, of course, the ego won't always present itself like that, because then the jig would be up, right? So a lot of times those thoughts seem to be like a good idea at the time, but if you question it, you can realize that the mouth of the ego is full of cursing and deceit and fraud, and under his tongue is mischief and vanity. In other words, it's all about lies, it's all about vanity, and it's all about keeping the status quo and keeping you away from the solution to your problem, because remember that the ego's motto is seek but don't find. Please keep busy and keep broke and busy, because if you're broke and busy, then you're not going to have enough time to think about the things that are going to make you succeed. And if you succeed, then the ego's function is gone, because the ego wants to keep you away from your successes, wants to keep you just giving you the idea of success so that you can always run after it, but never quite reaching it. And that's what that whole thought system is filled with, that, and that's called the wicked in this psalm. He sitteth in lurking places of the villages, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. Right, it doesn't come right out and do it in the open in your mind, because then it would be like really easy to make new choices, right? So look at the reactions to look at the manifestations in your life of the things that are causing you these problems. And if you really are diligent and follow the thinking back to what started those problems, you'll realize that the wicked, if you will, from the psalm have been very, very active in your life. Luckily, you don't have to worry about how to deal with it, because the psalm gives you the formula. His eyes are privily set against the poor. Okay, that's basically saying the same thing that we've been talking about. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth them into his net. So it's very sly, it's very cunning, it's very baffling, it's very, very insidious, the way our thoughts try to churn against us. Luckily, we don't have to figure this stuff out, because if we work the formulas as given in these psalms, it's taken care of for us. All right, he croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. Yeah, so a lot of times the ego will make you believe that you're being humble, and that's, remember that idea of humility is completely backwards from the ego's point of view. It's not arrogant for you to accept who you are as a child of divinity, and that you are a god, and that you deserve happiness, and you deserve prosperity, and you deserve aliveness, and you deserve all good. You deserve all good, because that's what you were created from, was all good. Everything else is a creation, or is a projection of that ego thought system, right? And so to recognize that is not arrogance, is humility, because you didn't create yourself. You know, God created you. The creative principle created you, and therefore allowing yourself to be as you were created is the height of humility, not arrogance. Arise, O Lord. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgiven. He hideth his face and will never see it. Okay, so now this is actually talking about the poor here. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgiven. He hideth his face. He will never see it. Now, you will see God's face. God has not hidden his face. God hath not forgotten. I'm sorry, this is the ego. I got confused. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten. He hath hideth his face. He will never see it. That is exactly what the ego is trying to tell you. That God's not watching. God doesn't care about you. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. And the truth is, God doesn't hide God's face, because God's face is the qualities of God, and you will see God's face every time you turn your thoughts back to the qualities of God, remembering those qualities of God. Remember those divine qualities. That is God's face, and that always breaks up these thought forms. Wherefore doth the wicked condemn God? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. So how does the ego mind condemn God? By telling you that you don't need God. You do not need. I'm sorry. Let's come back to that. I skipped a verse. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up thine hand. Forget not the humble. Okay, so you're recognizing what humility is. So God lifts up his hand. He arises. He seems to arise up and lift up his hand as we accept our humility. And what's humility? Accepting our divinity, accepting that we are children of the divine. We do not have to put up with this nonsense anymore. That we are royal children. We are children of royalty. Remembering that is not arrogance, that is humility. Now it says, thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief. Oh, did I skip another one? Sorry about that. Wherefore doth the wicked condemn God? He hath said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. Again, the wicked condemns God because in his heart he says, God, that you don't need God. You don't require the countenance of God. You don't need to remember those qualities of God. You need to listen to me. You need to listen to me. You got to figure stuff out. You don't have time for this God stuff. You got to start thinking of these things. You got to figure this out. It's just you, and you're all alone in the universe, and you better get busy. That's how the ego wants you to think. Get real busy. Thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spite, to requite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Okay, so the helper of the fatherless. Fatherless in this term means that fatherless in the world, like you're feeling all alone. Again, the ego is trying to tell you you're all alone in the world. It's just you. You better get busy. And it's giving you this thought here that God helps you when you feel fatherless. Turn your face back to that countenance. Turn your thoughts back to those qualities of God, and then the mischief and spite of the ego is completely removed. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness until thou find none. So this is basically just an acknowledgement of the fact that light will dispel this darkness. If we keep our mind focused on the light, there's nothing for us to do. All of it is done for us. The light will seek out this wickedness until it finds none, meaning that once you turn on the light, the darkness is gone, and you don't have to do anything. It's done for you, just like anything real is done for you. We don't really do anything when it comes to anything real. You don't keep your heart beating. You don't keep yourself breathing. You don't keep the sun moving around the earth moving around the sun. You don't do anything that is important. The only thing you have to do is be the child of God. The only thing you have to do is remember who you are. Then it's done through you and for you. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. There we go. Now now it's going to be easy to persevere because these thoughts have been kicked out. They've been eliminated. They've been destroyed. They are perished. They're more than just kicked out. They're perished out of your land. That means they are completely killed out of your mind. All these evil thought forms are just gone. Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear. So by our turning our minds back to these qualities of God, we are acknowledging that God always hears the desire of the humble. And remember, the humble are those that recognize who they really are. A humble person, you got to really remember this, that the humble person isn't, oh, I'm not good enough for God, and maybe one day, if I'm good enough, then divinity will remember me. That is not humble. That is arrogant, thinking that you could make yourself less than the way you were created. Humility is, I was created out of love. I'm a creature of love. I'm a creature of light. I am of the royal house of divinity. I am spiritual royalty. That's how I was created, and that's just all there is to it. And I'm going to act like it. I'm going to receive instruction from infinite intelligence and follow it. I'm no longer going to listen to these dark thoughts. And that's how he causes thine ear to hear. That's how he causes his ear to hear. Of course he hears, because there's no ear. That's all very figurative, right? There's no being up in the sky. It's not a man called God or a woman called goddess. It's a principle called infinite intelligence, infinite life, infinite spirit, pure love. To judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. So the man, this is not the son of man. This is the man of the earth. It's talking about the ego. The ego is the man of the earth will oppress always. That's how it operates. That's its reason. It's its raison d'être. It's why it's here is to oppress. It's here to oppress you. It's here to oppress other people. It's here to keep you separate. It's here to keep you miserable. That's why we created the ego, is to feel separate from God. Now, if it judges the fatherless and the oppressed, if God judges the fatherless and the oppressed, that means that God's judgment is righteous, meaning that God judges us as good. God's judgment is something we want. God judges us as good because God created us good. God only wants the real us. All that other stuff, it is gone. It gets rid of. And that's how that ego, or the man of the earth, no longer oppresses you. So you can very easily find perseverance by remembering these qualities and by keeping the precepts of that psalm active in your mind. It's a beautiful thing. All right, well, thank you very much. This has been, as always, the highlight of my day, working magic with you. And until the next time, blessed be.